My world collapsed in a single, suffocating moment, pinned under the cold fluorescent lights of Apex Innovations' Manhattan boardroom. The air crackled with betrayal as my colleagues, partners who'd toasted my name at galas, fixed me with stares that branded me an outsider. Victor Sterling, my deputy, stood at the helm, his lips curling as he flashed a digital photo across the 70-inch screen. Olivia, my late wife, radiant beside a frail woman and two young boys, their faces alight with a joy I'd never known. Ethan's reckless ventures are draining our future, he spat, his voice a blade. My phone vibrated against the mahogany table, a text, clinical trials failed. Critical complications. My pulse thundered. Olivia's voice, a whisper from a year ago, clawed through my mind. Protect them, Ethan. I was unraveling. My company, my legacy, my vow to her slipping through my fingers. The room tilted, their eyes drilling into me, judging a man I barely recognized. I gripped the table's edge, the wood grounding me as I fought the urge to flee. This wasn't just a coup. It was a public execution of everything I'd built. Olivia's secret life, hinted at in that photo, was a bomb detonating my carefully constructed empire. I'd prided myself on control, yet here I was, exposed, raw, and powerless before a room of suits who'd once called me king. The wind howled outside the 50th floor windows, a restless spirit mirroring my dread. I'd spent years forging Apex into a titan, but this moment stripped me bare, leaving only the echo of Olivia's plea and the weight of a promise I didn't understand. I am Ethan Thorne, CEO of Apex Innovations, or so I was until that boardroom ambush. My life has been a tower of glass and steel, 80 stories above New York's chaos, where I reigned, untouchable, driven, yet hollowed out long before Olivia's death. 2 years ago, her passing carved a void no merger could fill. I drowned in work, spreadsheets, and board meetings, building walls against grief. My parents, cold academics, taught me ambition, not affection. My brother, a Wall Street shark, saw me as competition. Love was a foreign language, unspoken in my childhood home. I crafted my solitude deliberately, a fortress of ambition where I was sovereign. Olivia was my only breach, her warmth a light I dimmed with neglect. That photo, revealing her hidden world, shattered my illusion of mastery. I'd lived for Apex, for power, but her secret pulled me toward a reckoning I couldn't ignore. Her absence was my failure, a wound I'd buried under profit margins. Now, I stood on the edge of ruin, a man who'd conquered markets but lost his compass. The night Olivia died haunts me like a shadow cast by a dying sun. We stood in our penthouse, the Hudson River glittering 30 stories below. Her eyes, soft yet piercing, held mine as she said, "You're more than this, Ethan. You're meant for more." I scoffed, my mind tangled in a $2 billion deal. Later, I muttered, turning away. Hours later, a call. Her car had veered off the West Side Highway, a freak accident. She was gone. Her words became a wound, festering in the silence of my sterile home. I see her in every empty corner, hear her in the wind rattling my windows. That night, I lost her, but I drifted from her years before, too consumed to notice. A letter, still undiscovered, held her final plea, a charge I'd ignored until now. Her voice, carried on that restless wind, demanded I face the man I'd become and the one I'd failed to be. After the boardroom ambush, I became a ghost in my own company. Colleagues who once sought my approval now averted their eyes in Apex's glass-walled halls. My assistant, Claire, once a confidant, left memos unsigned, her warmth replaced by curt knots. Victor Sterling's whispers had poisoned the air. My erratic behavior was the talk of every 50th floor break room. At a strategy meeting, my ideas were met with silence, then dismissed with polite coughs. Perhaps Victor should take this, a director suggested, as if I weren't there. I stood by the window, the Hudson River 500 feet below glinting like a distant promise, and felt the weight of their judgment. They saw a fallen titan, not a man grappling with Olivia's shadow. My calls went unanswered, my emails unread. Even the security guard, who'd greeted me for years, scanned my badge with a blank stare. I was no longer Ethan Thorne, CEO, just a name on a letterhead, fading. The city's pulse, once my rhythm, now mocked me through the skyscraper's hum. I wandered Central Park at dusk, the oak leaves rustling secrets I couldn't grasp, and wondered if I'd ever belonged anywhere. Olivia's photo, that fleeting glimpse of her joy, haunted me. She'd found a world I'd never entered, and I was left outside, unmoored. The betrayal cut deepest from those I'd trusted most. My brother, James, a hedge fund magnate, called that week, not to console, but to accuse. "You're tanking Apex," he snapped, his voice sharp across the line from his Tribeca loft. "Step down before you drag us all under." He dined at my table, toasted Olivia's memory, yet now aligned with Victor, leaking rumors to Bloomberg about my instability. My CFO, Ellen, a friend of 15 years, avoided my office, her signature on a memo questioning my leadership. At a charity gala, she turned away mid-conversation, leaving me stranded among glittering strangers. Their rejection wasn't just professional, it was personal, a knife twisted in the trust I'd placed in them. I stood on my penthouse balcony, 80 stories above Manhattan, the wind carrying their betrayal like ash. Olivia's absence ached. She'd have seen through their masks. I asked myself, if those closest to me could turn so easily, what was loyalty worth? That night, something stirred. I couldn't stay silent, not anymore. In my office, surrounded by Olivia's untouched books, I drafted an email to the board, not a defense, but a question. What is Apex without risk? My fingers trembled as I hit send, the words a spark in the dark. The next day, I walked into Victor's strategy session uninvited, my voice steady as I challenged his projections. "We're innovators, not cowards," I said, locking eyes with him. Heads turned. Claire's pen paused. It wasn't a victory, but a defiance, a seed planted in soil I thought barren. I left the room, the city skyline sharp against the dawn, and felt the first pulse of resistance. Olivia's plea echoed, "Protect them." I didn't know who they were, but I knew I'd fight to find out. The park sparrows sang at sunrise, a quiet chorus urging me forward. Fear coiled inside me like a vine, tightening with every step through Apex's glass corridors. I'd built this empire to shield myself, but now it felt like a cage. Olivia's photo, her smile with that unknown woman and boys, burned in my mind, whispering I'd failed her in ways I couldn't yet grasp. At night, in my penthouse 80 stories above Manhattan, I'd wake gasping, her voice haunting my dreams. "You're meant for more." What if I wasn't? What if I lost Apex, my identity, everything? The city's hum, once a lullaby, now mocked my fragility. I saw myself in the Hudson's ripples 500 feet below, a man dissolving into nothing. My reflection in the bathroom mirror was a stranger, hollow eyes, a jaw clenched against collapse. I'd always outrun doubt, but now it clawed at my core. Was I enough to honor her plea? The sycamore outside my window swayed in the autumn wind, its leaves falling like my certainties. I curled inward, afraid of losing not just my company, but the man I thought I was. Olivia had seen something in me I couldn't find. Alone, I whispered to the dark, what if I'm not the man she believed in? The threats came swiftly, public, and unrelenting. Victor Sterling orchestrated a press conference, broadcast live on CNBC from a midtown studio. "Ethan Thorne's leadership is a liability," he declared, his face filling screens across Times Square. He named me, accused me of squandering $50 million on unvetted projects. Reporters swarmed my office building, their cameras flashing like vultures circling. Online, ex-posts branded me a fraud. Hashtag Thorndown trended. At a shareholder meeting, investors I'd known for a decade jeered, their voices a chorus of contempt. "Step down, Ethan," one shouted. I stood frozen, the podium a gallows. The city's skyline loomed through the window, its spires judging me. I was no longer a CEO, but a pariah, cornered and exposed. If family could betray me, if Apex could turn, what was left? I asked myself, would you stay silent or speak, as I'm trying to? Then, a spark flickered. Amid the chaos, I found a letter in my office, slipped under the door, anonymized, and signed. Postmarked from Brooklyn. Olivia's work lives, it read. Horizon Medical Center. Find Sarah Jenkins. My heart raced. This was no coincidence. Olivia's plea, protect them, rang clearer. I drove 10 miles to the center that night, the city's lights blurring past. Standing outside its modest brick facade, I felt a pulse of purpose. I didn't know Sarah, but her name was a lifeline. For the first time, I sensed value in myself, not as a CEO, but as a man tied to Olivia's legacy. The stars above, faint against Manhattan's glow, seemed to nod. I clutched the letter, my breath steadying. Would I falter or follow this thread? I chose to move forward, one step into the unknown. Curiosity gripped me like ivy climbing a forgotten wall, urging me to unearth Olivia's hidden truth. The anonymous letter, its cryptic words, "Olivia's work lives," was a map to a world she'd kept from me. I drove back to Horizon Medical Center. 10 miles from Manhattan's clamor, its brick facade humble against the dawn's soft glow. Inside, I met Emily Roberts, a nurse with kind eyes and a guarded tone. She confirmed Olivia's secret. My wife had volunteered here, funding a community clinic for those the city overlooked. Emily handed me Olivia's journal, its leather cover worn, filled with notes about a woman named Sarah Jenkins and her sons, Leo and Noah. I sat in the center's quiet garden, cedar trees whispering in the breeze, and read Olivia's words. "Sarah's strength is my anchor." Why hadn't she told me? I questioned everything. Our marriage, my blindness, Apex's purpose. Back in my penthouse, I scoured old emails, finding a deleted draft from Olivia about a breakthrough. I called Emily, probing for details. Her hesitation hinted at deeper secrets. I walked the high line at dusk, its wild grasses swaying, and felt Olivia's presence urging me forward. Was I wrong all along, chasing profit while she chased hope? This investigation wasn't just about Sarah, it was about reclaiming the man Olivia believed I could be. The city's heartbeat, pulsing 80 stories below, dared me to dig deeper, to unravel the life she'd lived without me. A clue emerged, sharp and undeniable, like a stone uncovered in a stream. Emily invited me to Sarah's Brooklyn apartment, a 15-mile drive across the East River. There, I saw Sarah, frail, yet fierce, her eyes mirroring Olivia's resolve. Over tea, she spoke of Olivia's obsession with a medical trial, a treatment encoded in data Olivia had entrusted to me. Sarah showed me a USB drive, its label in Olivia's handwriting, "For Ethan, when time comes." My heart raced. This was no accident. Back at Apex, I accessed Olivia's cloud account, finding encrypted files dated before her death. A single note read, "Sarah needs this." The truth loomed larger than I'd imagined. Olivia had been building something world-changing, and I'd been too consumed to see it. I stood on my balcony, the Manhattan skyline glittering, and felt a shift. A call from Emily warned of Victor Sterling's spies sniffing around Horizon. His gaze, like a hawk's, missed nothing. The wind carried a chill, but also clarity. I couldn't ignore this. Olivia's legacy was alive, and Sarah was its keeper. Would I let fear stop me, or seize this thread of truth? I declared my resolve, a vow etched in the quiet of my office. No more half measures. I'd uncover Olivia's work and protect Sarah's family. I wrote an open letter to Apex's board, not sent yet, stating, "Our future lies in Olivia's vision, not sterile profits." I called Emily, promising to fund Horizon's trials, despite Victor's threats. At sunrise, I stood in Central Park, the maples ablaze with autumn, and felt a fire kindle within. This would upend everything Apex, my reputation, my safety. But Olivia's plea, "Protect them," was my North Star. I'd confront Victor, rally allies, and bring her dream to light. If I faltered, her legacy would die. I asked myself, if you were me, would you dare to disrupt it all for a truth you barely understand? The sparrow's song answered, bold and clear, as I stepped into the fight, ready to rewrite my story and hers. My first bold move trembled with uncertainty, yet I stepped forward, driven by Olivia's shadow. I drove 15 miles to Sarah Jenkins' Brooklyn apartment, my palms slick against the steering wheel. The USB drive, Olivia's legacy, burned in my pocket. Sarah's home was a fourth-floor walk-up, its paint peeling, but inside, warmth glowed despite the chaos. She opened the door, her frame fragile but her gaze steady, Leo and Noah peering from behind. "I'm here to help," I said, voice catching. I handed her the drive, explaining Olivia's encrypted files. We sat at her scarred kitchen table, the boys' crayon drawings papering the walls, and I pledged Apex's resources to revive her trial. Sarah's eyes widened, hope flickering. But doubt lingered, she barely knew me. Outside, Brooklyn's brownstones stood resolute under a gray sky, their solidity urging me on. I was no savior, just a man grasping for redemption. Yet I knocked on her door, heart pounding, because Olivia's voice demanded it. The city's hum, faint through her window, felt like a pulse aligning with mine. I'd never risked so much on faith alone, $10 million, my reputation, Apex's future. Victor's spies were circling. I sensed their eyes in every shadow. But standing there, I felt alive. tethered to something greater than profit. The Hudson's distant flow, 5 miles away, whispered courage. Was I reckless or finally awake? Sarah nodded, accepting my offer, and for a moment, I glimpsed the man Olivia saw in me, not the CEO, but Ethan, raw and reaching. The trial sparked to life, a fragile victory shadowed by thorns. Within weeks, Apex funded Horizon Medical Center's research, and Sarah, despite her illness, led the clinical team. Initial tests showed promise. Patients responded to Olivia's treatment. I stood in the lab, 10 miles from Manhattan, watching monitors flicker with hope. Leo and Noah visited, their laughter a balm, calling me Mr. Ethan. But Victor struck back. He leaked doctored financials to the Wall Street Journal, claiming I'd embezzled $15 million. Posts exploded, branding me a thief, my inbox filled with threats. At a board meeting, Ellen, my old friend, questioned my sanity, her voice cold. Sarah's health faltered. She collapsed during a trial review, rushed 3 miles to Kings County Hospital. I drove through a rain-soaked night, fear gripping me. Had I pushed too far? The city's neon lights blurred, reflecting my doubt. I asked myself, am I fighting for justice or dragging us all into ruin? The park's elms, drenched and swaying, offered no answer. Yet, Sarah stabilized, and the trial's early data held. I clutched a photo of Olivia, her smile a beacon, and vowed to press on, despite the storm. I stood in my penthouse, the skyline glittering 80 stories below, and swore I'd never retreat. The man who'd hidden behind silence was gone. I wrote in my journal, words spilling like river water. Olivia's dream is mine now. I won't falter. I tore up old contracts, symbols of my former life, and taped Sarah's boys' drawings to my fridge. Looking in the mirror, I saw not a titan, but a man forged anew, flawed, but fierce. The wind outside howled, carrying Central Park's breath, its maples a chorus of resilience. I'd face Victor, the board, the world, not for glory, but for Sarah, her sons, and Olivia's truth. This was my oath, sealed under the stars faintly visible above Manhattan. No turning back. I was all in, a man reborn in purpose, ready to carry her legacy forward, whatever the cost. The boardroom at Apex Innovations, perched 80 stories above Manhattan, became a stage for reckoning. I strode in unbowed. As Victor Sterling called an emergency meeting to oust me, the 50-foot glass wall framed a restless Hudson River, its currents mirroring my resolve. Directors sat rigid, their eyes darting as I took the podium. Today, we face truth, I began, my voice steady despite my racing pulse. I projected Olivia's journal, its pages scanned, revealing her work at Horizon Medical Center. Gasps rippled, Victor's smirk faltered. I shared Sarah's story, her fight, her sons, the trial we'd revived. Cameras rolled, streaming live to shareholders across New York's financial district. I wasn't just defending my role. I was unveiling Olivia's heart, a legacy buried under Apex's steel. The room's silence was heavy, broken only by the city's faint hum, 500 feet below. I felt Olivia's presence, her warmth in the morning light slicing through the windows. This wasn't about me. It was about Sarah, Leo, Noah, and a dream bigger than profit. The sycamores outside Central Park, visible in the distance, stood tall, urging me to stand taller. Every eye locked on me, some with doubt, others with dawning respect. I'd stepped into the fire, no longer the man who hid behind wealth. Would you face such a moment, or shrink from it? I chose to speak, to let truth burn bright. And the world watched, waiting for what came next. Victor's mask cracked under the weight of evidence. I played a recording from Olivia's USB drive, her voice clear, detailing a treatment she'd pioneered. Then, Emily Roberts, Horizon's nurse, stepped forward via video, holding Sarah's lab results, proof the trial was working. I revealed Victor's emails, hacked anonymously, showing he'd sabotaged funding to tank the project for his gain. The boardroom froze, directors' faces paled. Victor stammered, his polished veneer crumbling as I displayed bank records, $20 million siphoned to his offshore accounts. The truth was a blade, cutting through his lies. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the skyscraper's frame, as if nature itself demanded justice. Reporters, tipped off, crowded the lobby 80 floors below, their flashes a storm. Victor's allies shifted uncomfortably, their loyalty fraying. I stood firm, Olivia's journal in hand, her words my shield. The city's pulse, thrumming through Times Square's screens, carried our story. I wasn't just exposing him. I was reclaiming Apex for something greater. Would you let a liar prevail, or fight for what's right? The room's air shifted, heavy with the weight of revelation. As Victor's empire of deceit collapsed before us all, the tide turned, slow but undeniable. Shareholders, watching from Wall Street to Silicon Valley, flooded X with support. #Olivia's legacy trended. Directors who'd scorned me now nodded, their skepticism softening. Claire, my assistant, clapped first, her hands breaking the silence. Others followed, a wave of applause echoing off the glass. A board member, once Victor's ally, stood, saying, "We misjudged you, Ethan." The room exhaled, the tension easing like a river finding its course. Outside, the Hudson sparkled under a noon sun. Its flow a quiet hymn of vindication. Strangers on X shared stories of loved ones saved by Horizon's care, their words a chorus of belief. The city, once a judge, now embraced me. I felt Olivia's hand on my shoulder, her smile in the light. Have you ever felt a moment when the world sees you anew? I stood there, not a CEO, but a man who'd fought for truth. Surrounded by a fragile, growing trust, ready to carry her dream forward. Victory should have lifted me, but doubt crept in like fog over the Hudson. The boardroom triumph, with Victor's lies exposed, left me hollow. I stood in my penthouse, 80 stories above Manhattan, the city's lights mocking my unrest. Had I honored Olivia, or merely chased her ghost? Her journal lay open, its pages filled with a warmth I'd never matched. Was I destroying Apex's stability for a dream I didn't fully grasp? Sarah's frail smile, Leo and Noah's trusting eyes, they weighed on me. What if the trial failed? What if I'd misled them, promising hope I couldn't deliver? My reflection in the glass showed a man fraying, not a hero. I'd risked $20 million, my legacy, for a cause I barely understood. The wind outside howled, rattling the windows, as if echoing my turmoil. I'd fought for truth, but at what cost? Olivia believed in me, but did I? I wandered Central Park at dawn, the elm's bare branches clawing the sky, and questioned my worth. Was I enough, or just a man pretending to be more? The river's flow, 500 feet below, offered no answers. I'd exposed Victor, but doubted my motives. Was this redemption, or ego? Alone, I whispered to the dawn, have I built something true, or torn down everything for nothing? My deepest fear surfaced, raw and unyielding, in the quiet of Horizon Medical Center's garden. 10 miles from Manhattan, I sat under cedars, their scent grounding me as panic rose. I feared I was unneeded, a shadow in Olivia's light. Her journal spoke of Sarah's courage, not mine. Memories flooded, my father's cold dismissal, my brother's rivalry. Olivia's gentle pleas I'd ignored. As a boy in upstate New York, I'd hidden in cornfields, feeling invisible. That child lingered, terrified no one truly wanted him. What if Sarah, Leo, Noah thrived without me? What if Apex crumbled, and I was left alone, exposed as a fraud? The garden sparrows chirped, indifferent to my dread. I saw Olivia's face in the morning mist, her eyes asking if I'd falter. I clutched her journal, my breath shallow, and faced the truth. I feared being nothing, a man who'd failed his wife, his company, himself. Has anyone felt they're fighting the world alone? I stood, the cedars shade cool, and let the fear wash over me, its weight heavy but not final, urging me to confront the boy who'd hidden too long. I rose, resolute, under that same garden's light. I wasn't perfect, but I'd stopped running. I don't need to be Olivia's hero, I wrote in my journal, just Ethan, trying. I forgave my failures, ignoring her, chasing wealth, doubting myself. The trial, Sarah, the boys, they were my path, not my burden. I walked Brooklyn streets, 15 miles from my tower. The brownstone steady as my new conviction. I'd lost Olivia, but not her dream. The river's pulse, faint in the distance, sang of resilience. I chose to continue, not to please others, but to honor the man I was becoming. Mistakes didn't define me. My fight did. I stood under a maple, its leaves ablaze, and felt whole. Olivia's voice, carried on the breeze, whispered approval. I'd carry her legacy, not as a weight, but as a fire. No more hiding. I was enough, scarred but standing, ready to lead with a heart cracked open, for Sarah, for Apex, for myself. The city split like a river at a fork, its voices clashing over my name. On X, some hailed me as a visionary, sharing clips of my boardroom stand under #Olivia's legacy. their posts blooming like wildflowers, 10,000 retweets in a day. Others, spurred by Victor's allies, called me a fraud, a CEO spinning tales for fame. The New York Post ran a headline: Thorne's gamble, hero or huckster? Outside Apex's tower, 80 stories above Manhattan, protesters waved signs, some cheering Horizon's trials, others demanding my resignation. At a Tribeca cafe, strangers whispered as I passed, their eyes judging. The pressure was a tide, pulling me under. I walked the high line, its grasses swaying 30 feet above the streets, seeking clarity. The Hudson's shimmer, 2 miles away, offered none. My phone buzzed with split sentiments: praise from Horizon's patience, venom from Apex investors. Was I saving lives or sowing chaos? The city's pulse, once my ally, now felt like a jury. Olivia's journal, tucked in my coat, weighed heavy. Had I twisted her dream into a spectacle? If you were me, would you bask in the cheers or drown in the jeers? I stood under a cherry tree, its bare branches stark, and felt the world's gaze. Public opinion wasn't just divided, it was a mirror, reflecting my own fractured heart, daring me to choose a side. Victor's counterattack was swift, a storm breaking over my fragile stand. He hired a top-tier law firm, filing a $50 million defamation suit against me, claiming I'd fabricated his embezzlement. On CNN, he spun a tale of my mental decline, leaking doctored texts suggesting I'd misused Apex funds. His PR machine flooded X with lies, photos of me at galas, captioned as proof of extravagance. A 20-mile drive to Horizon revealed the spies trailing me, their black SUVs glinting in Brooklyn's dusk. My CFO, Ellen, now his ally, froze Apex's accounts, stalling the trial's funding. Threats arrived. Anonymous calls warning I'd pay for crossing Sterling. The city skyline, sharp against the night, loomed like his reach. I stood on my balcony, 500 feet above the streets, the wind biting. Olivia's voice, faint, urged me on, but Victor's shadow was relentless. His lies weren't just attacks, they were chains, binding my resolve. Would you stay silent, or fight a giant knowing he'd strike harder? The elms in Central Park, visible in the distance, swayed, whispering endurance, but his assault tested every ounce of my will. I was cornered, a man pushed to the edge of despair. Apex's board called an emergency vote to suspend me, set for next week. Sarah's health worsened. She was readmitted 3 miles away at Kings County Hospital, the trial teetering without her. My brother James emailed, urging me to quit. You're done, Ethan. Friends vanished. Claire stopped answering calls. I sat in my office, the city's lights dimmed through the 50th floor windows, and wondered if I could win. Victor's suit could bankrupt me. The trial's delays might fail Sarah. The weight was crushing. Had I bet everything on a losing hand? The river's flow, faint below, felt like time slipping away. Olivia's journal lay open, her words a fading echo. I asked myself, can I outlast this, or am I fighting a war already lost? The dawn broke, painting the skyline gold, and I clung to a fading hope, isolated, yet not ready to break, standing alone in a city that no longer knew me. In my darkest hour, a hand reached out, steady and sure. I sat in Horizon Medical Center's garden, 10 miles from Manhattan, the cedars scent mingling with my despair. Sarah was still in the hospital, the trial stalled, and Victor's lawsuit loomed like a storm. Then Emily Roberts, the nurse who'd known Olivia, found me. Her eyes, warm as the dawn, held no judgment. I believe in you, Ethan, she said, sitting beside me on the worn bench. She'd seen Olivia's work firsthand, watched her pour love into Sarah and her boys. Emily shared a memory, Olivia laughing with Leo and Noah, teaching them to plant seeds in this very garden. She trusted you to finish this, she said. I clutched Olivia's journal, its pages creased, and felt a crack in my isolation. The Hudson's faint ripple, 5 miles away, carried a whisper of hope. Emily wasn't just a nurse. She was a witness to Olivia's heart, and now my ally. I'd been alone, but her words were a lifeline, pulling me from the abyss. The sparrows above sang, their notes of fragile promise. Was this enough to keep fighting? I looked at Emily, her resolve like the garden's steady oaks, and nodded. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't alone. If you were sinking, would you take a stranger's hand? I did, and it changed everything, grounding me in a truth Olivia had left behind. Our bond grew, rooted in shared purpose. Emily and I met daily at Horizon, 15 miles from Apex's chaos. We pored over trial data, her expertise guiding my resolve. She introduced me to Sarah's boys, Leo and Noah, who shyly showed me their drawings. I brought them to my penthouse, 80 stories above Manhattan, their laughter thawing my sterile home. Emily shared stories of Olivia's late nights at the center, her faith in the treatment. We built a plan, recruiting scientists, securing grants, dodging Victor's spies. At Brooklyn's Prospect Park, we walked under maples, 3 miles from Sarah's hospital, plotting our next move. Trust bloomed like the park's wildflowers, fragile but fierce. I confided my fears, losing Apex, failing Sarah. Emily listened, her silence a balm. "We're a team," she said, her hand on my arm. The city's pulse, faint through the trees, felt like our shared heartbeat. Olivia's dream bound us, a thread stronger than Victor's lies. "Would you trust a new friend to fight beside you?" I leaned into Emily's strength, our alliance a shield against the storm, ready to rebuild what I'd nearly lost. The spark we lit spread, a wildfire of collective will. Patients at Horizon shared their stories on X. Their videos tagged #Olivia'sLegacy, garnering 50,000 views overnight. A petition to save the trial, started by Emily, hit 10,000 signatures in Brooklyn alone. Scientists, inspired by our data, joined from Boston and Seattle, working pro bono. At a community vigil 10 miles from Manhattan, 200 people lit candles for Sarah, their faces glowing in the dusk. I spoke, my voice raw, sharing Olivia's vision. Strangers hugged me, their trust a tide lifting me. The media shifted. NPR aired a piece on Horizon's breakthroughs, naming me a flawed but driven leader. The city skyline, glittering beyond the vigil, felt like an ally again. This wasn't just my fight anymore. It was a movement, growing like vines over stone. Have you seen a community rise for truth? I stood among them, no longer alone, my heart swelling with their strength, ready to face Victor's next blow with a chorus behind me. Victor Sterling returned with a vengeance, his final strike aimed at my core. From a midtown penthouse, he launched a media blitz, airing a documentary on Fox Business that smeared my past, old photos of me at lavish galas, twisted to paint me as a reckless spendthrift. He dug up a 15-year-old lawsuit, long dismissed, claiming it proved my dishonesty. His team flooded X with #ThornFraud, hitting 20,000 posts in hours. At Apex, he rallied a splinter group of directors, pushing a vote to seize my shares, worth $100 million. A 20-mile drive to Horizon revealed his private investigators tailing Sarah's doctors, seeking dirt. The city skyline, sharp against a stormy dusk, mirrored his relentless assault. My phone buzzed with his lawyer's threat: settle or face ruin. The Hudson's churn, 5 miles away, echoed my dread. Victor wasn't just fighting for control. He was erasing Olivia's legacy, burying her trial under lies. The wind howled, rattling my 80th floor windows, as if urging me to falter. Yet Emily's words, "she trusted you," burned brighter. This was his last stand, but mine too. Would you let a bully's final blow break you, or stand taller? I walked Central Park's paths, its oak steadfast, and chose to fight, knowing Victor's venom could destroy me. But Olivia's truth was worth more than my fear. The final confrontation unfolded in Apex's boardroom, a battlefield 500 feet above Manhattan. I stepped to the podium, cameras streaming to millions, my heart steady. Victor sat smug, his allies smirking. I played Olivia's last recording, found on her USB, her voice clear, detailing the trial's promise and Victor's sabotage. Then Sarah appeared, frail but fierce, wheeled in from Kings County Hospital, 10 miles away. She held up lab results, her cancer in remission, thanks to Olivia's treatment. Emily followed, presenting sworn affidavits from scientists, proving Victor's embezzlement of $25 million. The room gasped, directors' faces froze. I faced Victor, my voice unwavering. "Your lies end here." His eyes darted, his composure cracking. Outside, the city's pulse thrummed through Times Square's screens, broadcasting our truth. The board's silence was a held breath, the air electric. I felt Olivia's hand, her warmth in the sunlight streaming through the glass. This wasn't just my fight, it was Sarah's, Emily's, the boys'. Would you confront your enemy head-on, or let fear win? I stood tall, the elms outside swaying, as Victor's empire crumbled under the weight of evidence, his power dissolving before the world's eyes. The truth prevailed, a river breaking through stone. Victor's allies abandoned him, The board voted unanimously to reinstate me. An anonymous whistleblower, later revealed as Claire, leaked his offshore accounts to the SEC, leading to his arrest in the lobby, 80 floors below. X erupted with hashtag Justice for Olivia, hitting 50,000 posts. Sarah's remission was headline news on NPR, her story validating the trial. Shareholders, once divided, sent emails of support, their trust restored. The city, once a jury, now cheered. Strangers clapped as I walked Wall Street. I stood on my balcony, the Hudson glittering under a clear sky, and felt Olivia's smile. Her legacy, buried for years, had won. The trial's data, now open source, promised hope for millions. Have you felt a moment where truth shifts everything? I had walked the path to its end, no longer the man who'd started, but one remade by love and purpose, standing firm as Central Park's maples, ready to carry her light forward. Victory's glow faded, revealing a cost heavier than I'd imagined. I stood on my penthouse balcony, 80 stories above Manhattan, the city's lights dimmed by loss, exposing Victor's severed ties I'd once held dear. My brother James cut contact, his final email cold. You chose strangers over family. Ellen, my CFO and friend of 15 years, resigned, her silence louder than any argument. Apex survived, but its stock dipped 20%, erasing $200 million in value. Shareholders whispered of my reckless crusade. My reputation, once ironclad, now bore scars. Headlines still question my motives. I lost Claire's loyalty. She moved to a rival firm, her desk empty. The Hudson's flow, 500 feet below, mirrored my unraveling. Olivia's journal, its pages worn, felt like a mirror to my failures. Her warmth had built bridges I'd burned. I'd saved the trial, but at what price? Friends faded. Invitations stopped. I walked Central Park. Its maples bare under November's chill, their branches a stark reminder of what I'd sacrificed. Sarah and her boys were safe, but I'd lost the world I'd known. Was truth worth this ruin? The wind carried no answers, only the weight of what I'd given up, connections, stability, the man I'd been. Have you ever won a battle but lost your home? I stood alone, the city's pulse distant, counting the toll of a truth that had reshaped me. I faced the consequences, not as punishment, but as part of the path. Alone in my office, 50 floors above Wall Street, I packed away old awards. Their shine meaningless. I deactivated my X account, its noise a distraction from the quiet I needed. I drove 15 miles to Brooklyn, visiting Sarah, now recovering, and her boys. Their hugs a fleeting warmth. But I didn't lean on them. I learned to stand solitary. The trial's success wasn't mine to claim. It was Olivia's, Sarah's, Emily's. I'd been a vessel, not a savior. And that was enough. I walked the Brooklyn Bridge at dawn, its cables steady against the wind, and accepted the isolation. I'd lost allies, but gained clarity. My worth wasn't in applause, but in the fight itself. The river below flowed on, unjudging, teaching me to let go. I didn't need the city's approval or my brother's nod. I needed to live true. Would you embrace the cost of your choices, or hide from them? I chose to stand, the skyline a witness, my heart settling into a new rhythm, one that didn't crave the world's embrace, but my own. I rebuilt myself, not from scratch, but from the embers of who I'd been. I resigned as Apex's CEO, passing the role to a trusted colleague, and took a smaller office, 10 floors lower. To oversee the trial's expansion, I enrolled in a community college course on public health, 5 miles from Manhattan, learning what Olivia had known instinctively. I started writing a blog. Not for fame, but to trace my path, each word a step toward clarity. In my penthouse, I hung Leo and Noah's drawings, their colors bright against the steel. I walked the High Line. 30 feet above the streets, its wildflowers a reminder of growth after ruin. I wasn't restarting. I was continuing, different, stronger. The Hudson's current, glinting below, sang of renewal. Olivia's voice, softer now, guided me, not as a ghost, but as a light within. I chose to live for purpose, not power, a man reshaped by loss but rooted in hope. The city's dawn, painting the skyline gold, welcomed me back, not as a titan, but as Ethan, whole at last. Sarah Jenkins saw me, not the CEO or the man who'd fought Victor, but Ethan, stripped bare. I visited her in Brooklyn, 15 miles from Manhattan, her apartment now brighter as she recovered. She poured me tea, her hands steady, and said, "You're more than your battles." Her words cut through my armor. She saw the boy who'd hidden in upstate cornfields, the husband who'd failed Olivia, yet kept going. We sat by her window, the brownstones outside glowing in the afternoon sun, and she shared how Olivia had seen my heart, even when I hadn't. Sarah didn't ask for my story. She offered hers, years of struggle, yet hope unbroken. Her sons, Leo and Noah, ran in, hugging me, their trust a mirror to her own. The Hudson's distant flow, 5 miles away, hummed with quiet grace. Sarah's gaze, warm as the cedar-scented air at horizon, shifted my perspective. I wasn't just a man who'd won a fight. I was someone worth knowing, flaws and all. Have you ever been seen, truly, by another? I sat there, the tea steam curling, and felt my walls crumble, her presence a beacon guiding me toward a self I'd long ignored, rooted in the earth of her simple, profound kindness. I let go of the anger that had chained me, forgiving myself and those who'd turned away. In my penthouse, 80 stories above Manhattan, I wrote a letter to my brother James, not to send, but to release. I don't hate you, I scrawled. I just need to be free. I forgave Ellen, Claire, even Victor. Their betrayal wasn't mine to carry. Most of all, I forgave myself for failing Olivia, for missing her light. I tore the letter into pieces, the act a quiet severing of old wounds. I walked Central Park at dawn, 2 miles from my tower, the elm's branches bare but promising spring. The weight lifted, not because they deserved it, but because I did. Olivia's journal, now a companion, no longer judged me. I cried, the first tears in years, under a maple shade. The city's pulse soft. Would you hold on to pain, or set it free for your own peace? I chose freedom. The rivers flow a hymn of release, my heart lighter, ready to live unburdened, not for others, but for the man I was becoming. Healing took form in a small, tangible act. In Sarah's apartment, I found a wilted pothose plant, one Olivia had given her years ago. I brought it to my penthouse. Its drooping leaves a mirror to my past. I tended it daily, watering it by my window, 500 feet above the streets, the morning light coaxing it back. Slowly, it revived, green shoots curling upward. A quiet miracle. The plant wasn't just foliage. It was a symbol of my own return, of roots finding soil after drought. I hung a photo of Olivia with Sarah, their smiles bright, next to Leo and Noah's drawings. The Hudson glittered below, its current a song of renewal. This wasn't the end, but a beginning, each leaf a step toward wholeness. Have you ever nurtured something back to life and found yourself restored? I stood by the plant, the city's dawn painting my walls gold, and felt Olivia's warmth, not as loss, but as a living part of me, growing stronger with every sunrise. The storm had passed, and I found a gentle rhythm in the quiet that followed. I moved from my penthouse to a brownstone in Brooklyn, its small garden a haven of clover and mint. Each morning, I brewed coffee, opened the windows, and let the city's soft hum fill the air. I walked to Prospect Park, my footsteps steady on paths lined with oaks, their leaves a canopy of calm. Sarah, now stronger, invited me to dinners with Leo and Noah, their laughter a melody in her cozy apartment. I traded suits for sweaters, boardrooms for community centers. The Hudson's flow glittered under dawn's light, a reminder of battles won. My life, once a race for power, slowed to a walk. Each step deliberate, grounded. I tended the pothose plant, its green thriving, a mirror to my own steady pulse. The city no longer judged me, it welcomed me, its streets familiar, its skyline a friend. Have you ever found peace after chaos, a life that fits your soul? I stood in my garden, the morning dew cool, and breathed deeply, no longer chasing, but living. My heart aligned with the earth's quiet song, ready for what lay ahead. I turned my story into a gift for others, a seed planted for those still lost. I founded a support group at Horizon Medical Center for patients and families touched by illness. Every Thursday, I sat with them, sharing Olivia's dream and my journey, my voice raw but open. No one should face their hell alone, I told them. I volunteered at a Brooklyn shelter, serving meals and listening to stories of struggle that echoed mine. I funded scholarships for kids like Leo and Noah, ensuring they'd have choices I never did. The city's pulse, thrumming through crowded streets, carried their hopes. I spoke at community events. My words simple, you're enough, even when you're broken. Strangers hugged me, their tears a shared language. The elms in Central Park stood tall, their strength my inspiration. Would you share your pain to lift another? I did, and found purpose in their healing, each story a thread weaving a tapestry of resilience, Olivia's legacy alive in every heart I touched. My story sparked a fire, connecting a community beyond my reach. At a vigil in Brooklyn, 200 people shared their journeys, their voices rising under a starlit sky. Live-streamed to thousands on X with hashtag Olivia's legacy, hitting 100,000 views. A nurse from Seattle wrote, "Your fight saved my patient." I posted a video, my first, standing in Prospect Park, urging others to speak their truths. It spread, 50,000 shares in a week. Horizon's trials gained global attention, with donations pouring in from London to Tokyo. I invited stories in the comments. Reading each one, my heart swelling. The Hudson's current, glinting nearby, sang of connection. Have you ever seen your spark ignite others? I stood among supporters, no longer alone. Their candles a constellation of hope. I called on viewers to share, to let their words heal. My brownstone's garden, blooming with mint, held me as I read their replies. Each a light for someone lost, proving no story stays silent forever. I returned to Apex Innovation's boardroom, where my world had once shattered. The glass walls, once a cage, now framed a Hudson River glinting with midday light. I stood where Victor's lies had pinned me, the podium still at the room's heart. The air no longer crackled with betrayal, it was still. Like the calm after a storm. I ran my fingers over the mahogany table, remembering the photo of Olivia with Sarah and her boys, the moment that broke me open. This was my wound's origin, where doubt and fear had nearly drowned me. Now, I saw it anew, not as a battlefield, but a birthplace of my change. I walked to the window. The city below a tapestry of lives, and felt Olivia's warmth in the sun's rays. The city's pulse was no longer a judge, but a witness. I wandered Central Park later, its oaks whispering resilience. Their roots deep as my resolve. Have you ever faced a place where you were broken, unafraid? I stood tall, the skyline steady, no longer trembling at the memory of that day. This room, once my ruin, was now a marker of how far I'd come, a space where I'd chosen truth over power, Olivia's legacy over my pride. I sought my brother James, not to accuse, but to close a chapter. I drove to his Tribeca loft, the Hudson's flow a quiet guide. He opened the door, his face guarded, the man who'd sided with Victor. "I'm not here to fight," I said, my voice soft. We sat by his window, the city's lights flickering below. I spoke of Olivia, Sarah, the trial, not to guilt him, but to share my path. I was lost, James, but I found my way. His eyes, once cold, softened. He admitted his fear, losing status, our family's name. "I was wrong," he said, voice low. It wasn't an apology, but a bridge. I didn't need his remorse. I needed to reclaim myself. The wind outside, carrying the park's breath, sealed our words. Would you confront someone who hurt you, just to let go? I did, and felt lighter, the river's current a song of release. My heart free to move forward, not as a victim, but as a man who'd chosen peace over pain. We both changed, a truth acknowledged in silence. James offered a nod, his hand briefly on mine. A gesture heavier than words. I saw it in his eyes, a flicker of the boy I'd known in upstate summers, before rivalry split us. I'd grown too, no longer the CEO chasing glory, but Ethan. Rooted in purpose. We didn't need to speak it, the moment held it all. I left his loft, walking to Brooklyn Bridge, its cables gleaming under dusk. The city, once a maze of ambition, now felt like home. Olivia's journal, tucked in my coat, was a quiet companion, her voice woven into me. Have you ever felt a silent understanding heal a rift? I stood on the bridge. The Hudson flowing below, its tide carrying our shared past away. James and I weren't reconciled, but we were seen, two men altered by time and truth, our paths diverging but no longer at war. The skyline a testament to what we'd both let go. I stepped into the public eye, my story no longer just mine, but a beacon for others. In a Brooklyn community center, I recorded my first video, hands shaking as I faced the camera. I spoke of Olivia's secret work, Sarah's courage, and my fight against Victor's lies. The words poured out, raw, unpolished, true. I uploaded it to YouTube, my heart racing, unsure if anyone would care. Within hours, it spread, shared across X with hashtag Olivia's legacy, viewed by thousands from Wall Street to Seattle. I stood in Prospect Park, oaks whispering encouragement, and watched comments flood in, strangers moved by my path. The Hudson's shimmer reflected a world listening. I wasn't a CEO anymore, just Ethan, a man who'd stumbled and risen. My blog grew, each post a thread of my journey, weaving Olivia's dream into a tapestry for all. The city's pulse carried my voice. Have you ever shared your truth? Trembling but bold. I did, and it turned my scars into a story that resonated, not for fame, but for connection, each view a spark lighting up someone's darkness. Proving no one's pain is too small to matter. My words rippled, stirring change beyond my reach. A nurse in Chicago messaged, "Your story pushed me to advocate for my patients." A Brooklyn teacher started a fundraiser for Horizon Medical Center, inspired by Sarah's recovery. I was invited to speak at a Manhattan conference, my voice steady as I shared how Olivia's trial could save lives. The audience stood, clapping, their faces alight with possibility. X-Posts tagged me as a symbol of redemption, not perfection. Newspapers from Boston to San Francisco ran features on the open-source treatment, crediting our fight. I walked the High Line, wildflowers swaying, and felt Olivia's smile in the breeze. My story wasn't just mine. It was a call, shifting how people saw courage, community, hope. Would you speak to change the world, even a little? I stood among supporters, their energy a current, and saw my journey reshape lives from hospital wards to classrooms, proving one voice can plant seeds that grow far beyond its roots. I sowed hope, believing everyone could rise from their ashes. In my video's comments, I urged viewers, tell your story, it's enough. A mother in Atlanta wrote how she left an abusive job, inspired by my fight. A student in Oakland shared his dream to study medicine, sparked by Olivia's legacy. I replied to each, my heart full, knowing their words could light another's path. The city skyline, glowing at dusk, felt like a promise kept. I spoke at Horizon, patients and families nodding, their eyes bright with possibility. My message was simple: you don't need to be whole to start again. The elms in Central Park mirrored their resilience. Have you ever believed your story could save someone? I stood in my garden, mint blooming, and felt the world's pulse align with mine. Olivia's dream, now global, showed no one's fall is final. I called on all to share, to let their truths bloom, each voice a seed for tomorrow's hope, carried on the wind like dandelion wishes. I look back on this journey, its thorns, its triumphs, and feel no regret. Standing in my Brooklyn garden, mint curling around my fingers, I know I'd walk this path again. The boardroom battles, Victor's betrayal, the nights I doubted my worth, they carved me into someone new. Olivia's loss, once a wound, became my map, guiding me to Sarah, her boys, and a truth larger than myself. I lost friends, power, the man I was, but gained a heart that beats for purpose. The Hudson shimmer, visible from Prospect Park, reflects my choice to fight, not for glory, but for love. Every step, from Apex's glass halls to Horizon's quiet garden, was worth it. I see Olivia's smile in the dawn, her faith in me a fire that never fades. The city's pulse, soft through my open window, affirms my resolve. Have you ever chosen a road, knowing its cost, and found it right? I stand here, scars and all, proud of the man who faced the storm, who chose Olivia's dream over safety. The oaks in Central Park mirror my certainty. No turning back, no wishing otherwise, just a quiet pride in a life remade, rooted in the earth of my own truth. The pain, once my enemy, became my greatest teacher. In my brownstone, I traced the pothose plant's leaves, its revival a mirror to my own. The nights I wept for Olivia, the fear of failing Sarah, the sting of James' rejection, they taught me to love myself, not as a titan, but as Ethan, flawed and enough. Each ache showed me resilience, like the elms bending in a storm, yet standing tall. I'm grateful for the hurt. It broke my walls, letting light in. Olivia's journal, now a friend, holds her words not as judgment, but as lessons in courage. I walk the high line, wildflowers brushing my hands, and thank the struggles that shaped me. The city skyline, soft at dusk, feels like a nod from the past. Would you thank your pain for its wisdom? I do. Standing in my garden, the breeze carrying gratitude, my heart whole because of the cracks, each one a place where love took root, guiding me to a self I cherish, built from the ashes of what was. One truth defines it all, a beacon to carry forward. In my video's final frame, I stand in Prospect Park, the Hudson's light behind me, and say, I didn't defeat anyone. I just stopped losing to myself. This isn't about winning, but about living true. Olivia's legacy, Sarah's strength, the community's hope. They showed me my fight was never against Victor, but for my own soul. The city's hum, woven through Brooklyn's streets, sings of freedom found in surrender to purpose. My story ends not with a crown, but with peace, a man who faced his shadows and chose light. Have you found a truth that sets you free? I share mine, hoping it lingers like the park sparrow's song. Bold and clear. The pothos thrives, its leaves catching dawn's glow, a symbol of my victory not over others, but over the fear that once held me. I step forward, the skyline open. Ready for what comes, no longer bound, but soaring, whole in my own truth. I sat in my Brooklyn brownstone, pen in hand, and wrote to the Ethan of years past, the one who thought he wasn't enough. Dear Ethan, I began. You, who hid in upstate shadows, believing you'd never matter. I saw him, alone in Apex's glass halls, chasing power to silence doubt, blind to Olivia's light. I told him of the journey, the boardroom's betrayal, Sarah's courage, the trial that changed everything. You were enough, even then, I wrote, my words soft as the mint blooming in my garden. The Hudson's glow, faint through my window, carried forgiveness. I spoke to the boy who feared his father's scorn, the man who let Olivia slip away. You didn't need to be perfect, I whispered. Just brave. The city's hum, woven through Brooklyn's streets, held me as I read aloud, my voice steady. Olivia's journal, open beside me, nodded in agreement. Have you ever spoken to your past, offering the love it craved? I folded the letter, not to send, but to keep, a bridge to the self I'd once shunned, now cherished. The oaks in Prospect Park, steadfast, whispered that I'd always been whole, waiting to be seen by my own heart. The traits I once despised, my vulnerability, my fear, I now embraced. I'd hated my trembling hands in that first video, my doubt when Victor struck. I'd seen weakness in the tears shed for Olivia, in the boy who felt small. But now, in my garden, I saw their truth. My vulnerability let me connect with Sarah's pain. My fear drove me to fight for her boys. Those tears were my humanity, not shame. I walked the high line, wildflowers brushing my palms, and thanked my softness, it was my survival. My strength to stand again. The city skyline, soft at dusk, honored my flaws. Olivia had loved that boy, not the titan I'd tried to be. I wrote in my blog, my weakness was my compass. Would you cherish what you once loathed? I did. Standing under Central Park's elms, their branches a canopy of grace, my once hated heart now a gift, guiding me to love myself as I was. Not as I thought I should be. I embraced myself, whole and unashamed, in a quiet moment. In my brownstone, I stood before a mirror, the morning light gentle. For the first time, I smiled. Seeing not failure, but Ethan, scarred, resilient, enough. I traced the lines on my face, each one a story, Olivia's loss, Sarah's hope, the community's fire. I didn't flinch from my reflection. Didn't hide the boy who'd feared he'd never belong. The Hudson shimmer, beyond my window, sang of acceptance. I spoke aloud, your home. The pothos plant, thriving nearby, its leaves bright, mirrored my peace. Olivia's voice, woven into me, cheered softly. I walked to Prospect Park, the grass cool, and felt my soul settle. No more running, no more masks. Have you ever held yourself, flaws and all, and felt free? I did. The city's pulse my heartbeat. My story no longer a burden, but a song. I was Ethan, not perfect, but mine, standing tall under Brooklyn's sky. Ready to live as myself, whole in the light of my own truth. I sat in my Brooklyn brownstone, pen trembling, and wrote to Victor Sterling, the man who'd nearly broken me. Victor, I began. Your lies cut deep. I named the wounds, his boardroom ambush, the smear campaign, the threats that shadowed Sarah's trial. Once, I'd wished him the pain he'd caused. My anger a fire that burned through Apex's halls. I saw him now, not as a villain, but a man driven by greed, blind to Olivia's light. I listed the moments his betrayal stung, the leaked texts, the lawsuit, the ex-posts that branded me a fraud. Yet, as I wrote, the Hudson's shimmer through my window softened my rage. I didn't need his suffering, I needed peace. The city's pulse, humming beyond Prospect Park, urged me to let go. Olivia's journal, open beside me, held no hate, only purpose. Have you ever written to someone who hurt you, not for them, but for you? I poured out the pain, each word a stone lifted from my heart. my hand steady as I reclaimed the man I'd become. The oaks outside, rooted deep, whispered freedom, and I knew this letter was mine. A release from the chains of resentment, written to heal Ethan, not to curse Victor. I released my resentment, not for Victor's sake, but for my own. In my garden, mint curling under dawn's light, I saw clearly, holding anger only bound me. I forgive you, I wrote, not to ease your conscience, but to free mine. I let go of the nights I'd paced, cursing his name, the fear he'd sown. My forgiveness wasn't weakness, it was strength, a choice to live unburdened. I thought of Olivia, her warmth guiding Sarah, and knew she'd want this. The city's skyline, glowing softly, honored my release. I didn't need Victor's regret. I needed my soul unyoked. The elms in Central Park, steady through storms, stood as my witness. Would you cling to hate or set yourself free? I chose freedom, the breeze through my window a hymn of peace, my heart lighter than it had been in years. Olivia's voice, woven into me, sang of grace, and I stepped forward, no longer tethered to pain, but lifted by a truth that let me breathe, whole and unbound. I burned the letter, a final act of letting go. In my garden, under a Brooklyn dusk, I lit a match and watched the paper curl, its ashes rising like sparrows. The flames weren't destruction, but release, each spark a weight dissolved. I stood by the pothose plant, its leaves bright, and felt the last of Victor's shadow fade. The Hudson's glow, faint beyond the brownstones, danced with my freedom. I scattered the ashes among the mint, their dust mingling with earth. A symbol of closure. Olivia's smile, in my heart, nodded approval. The city's hum, soft through the evening, wrapped me in calm. Have you ever let go with a single act, feeling the world shift? I walked to Prospect Park, the grass cool, and stood under starlight, unburdened. The letter was gone, but its truth lived in me, no longer a man chained, but one who'd chosen peace. Stepping into the night with a heart open, ready for tomorrow's light. I sat in Prospect Park, Brooklyn's heart, under an oak-sprawling shade, and let silence hold me. No words. Just the breeze rustling leaves, the Hudson's faint shimmer nearby. The city's hum faded, leaving only my breath, steady and slow. I thought of Olivia, her laughter with Sarah. The boy's trusting eyes, the battles that reshaped me. My hands rested on the grass, cool and alive, grounding me in this moment. The pothose plant, thriving back in my brownstone, came to mind, its green a quiet echo of my own growth. I didn't need to speak. The world spoke through sparrows darting above, their song a hymn of peace. Olivia's journal, tucked in my bag, felt like a friend, its lessons woven into me. The skyline, soft at dusk, stood as a witness, not a judge. Have you ever paused, letting the earth breathe with you? I stayed there. The park's stillness a mirror to my soul, reflecting a man who'd walked through fire and found calm, no longer running, but rooted, whole in the quiet embrace of a moment that needed no words. I turned to the camera, my voice low, speaking to you, the viewer, as if you sat beside me. If you're lost in shadows, I said, I'm here, waiting, in my brownstone, recording this final video. I looked straight into the lens, Brooklyn's glow behind me. I shared my darkest nights, doubting Olivia's faith, fearing I'd fail Sarah, yet finding light. You're not alone, I promised, my eyes steady, heart open. The city's pulse, thrumming through my window, carried my words to you. I spoke of Horizon's hope, the community we built, urging you to trust your own strength. Olivia taught me that no one's pain is too small to heal. The elms in Central Park seemed to nod. Would you believe someone who says you're enough? I leaned closer, the camera a bridge, inviting you to step out, to share your truth, knowing I'd listen, as others had listened to me. Our story's a chain of light breaking through the dark. I asked you to tell your story, to let it spark another's hope. Write it, speak it. I said in the video, standing in my garden, mint curling at my feet. Your words might save someone tomorrow. I shared how a nurse's comment, a student's dream, had lifted me, their voices echoing on X under hashtag Olivia's Legacy. The Hudson's light danced, a call to connect. I invited you to comment below, to post your journey. No matter how small. The city skyline, bright beyond Prospect Park, felt like a canvas for your truth. I read every reply, each one a seed planted in Brooklyn's soil, growing into something vast. Have you ever shared a piece of yourself, hoping it helps another? I stood there, the breeze soft, urging you to join this chain, to let your story ripple like the river, touching lives from Manhattan to beyond. Your truth, I said, is a light. Share it, and watch it save someone lost, just as mine did. I stand in my Brooklyn garden, heart full. And thank you for walking this path with me. Your eyes on my videos, your comments sharing pain and hope, have been my strength. From Manhattan's bustle to Prospect Park's quiet. You listened as I spoke of Olivia's dream, Sarah's fight, my own stumbles. The Hudson's glow, soft beyond the brownstones, carries my gratitude. Each view, each word you wrote, build a bridge between us, a community bound by truth. I see your stories on X, tagged #OliviaSLegacy, lighting up lives from Brooklyn to beyond. The potho's plant, thriving nearby, mirrors the growth you've nurtured in me. My hand rests on my chest, a gesture for you, my smile real under the dawn's light. Have you ever felt a stranger's faith lift you? Your presence, through screens and words, held me as I rose from ashes. I bow to you. The city's pulse a chorus of thanks for staying from the boardroom's shadow to this garden's peace. Your heart's open, making my story ours, a tapestry woven with love and courage. I look ahead, unafraid of what waits. The future is a canvas, unmarked, like the elms in Central Park, ready for spring. I don't know what lies beyond this moment, but I'm not scared. Olivia's trial grows, saving lives, and I'll tend it with Sarah, Emily, the boys. My brownstone, filled with their laughter, is my anchor, but I'm open to new roads. The skyline, bright at dusk, promises possibility. I'll keep writing, speaking, sharing, not for fame, but for connection. The city's hum, woven through Brooklyn's streets, sings of beginnings. I'm no longer the man who chased power. I'm Ethan, ready for whatever blooms. Would you face tomorrow with hope, not fear? I stand here, the breeze soft, my heart light, trusting the path will unfold, guided by Olivia's warmth, the community's fire, and my own quiet faith, stepping forward with a smile, eager for the unknown. I call you to act, to let your story live beyond you. Don't hide your journey, share it, as I did, and watch it spark light. In my final video, I stand in Prospect Park, oaks behind me, and say, if you've risen from your depths, tell the world. Your truth, like mine, can heal, from a nurse's courage to a child's dream. Post it, speak it, let it ripple like the Hudson's flow. The city's skyline, open wide, waits for your voice. I'll read every word, my garden's meant a witness. Have you kept your story silent, or set it free? I urge you, share with #OliviaSLegacy. Join this chain of hope. Your words are a seed, planting tomorrow's change, from Brooklyn to the world. I step back, the camera fading, music swelling, leaving you with this. Your story matters. Tell it, and let it soar, a light for someone lost, forever unbound.